All right, Jada, why don't we bring in my longtime colleague from my radio days here on This Week in Pro Football, and that is, of course, a senior correspondent for ESPN and a prolific author and now a veteran analyst on NFL broadcasts, and that would be the great Sal Paolantonio. Sal, how are you doing?
Oh, Pat, I'm doing great. It's been a beautiful summer, but I am definitely ready for some football, Pat. I am definitely ready for tonight's game, and I'm obviously going to be in Foxborough for Patriots and Eagles. And I'm going to do all the TV, and then I'm going into the radio booth with Steve Levy for the ESPN national broadcasts. And I've done a bunch of these booth jobs as an analyst over the last 4 years, but it doesn't get any better than this, Pat.
It sure doesn't sound.
Week 1, Patriots home, and the Eagles in town. It doesn't get any better than that, Pat. I'm going to go a little light on my vocal cords on This Week in Pro Football, so that I don't. I got matchup taping tomorrow, 20th year hosting the NFL matchup show at NFL Films. So it's a big week. It's a big weekend in the Callahan Paolantonio households. I can tell you that.
I promise I'm only going to wring 5,000 to 6,000 words out of you in the next 15 minutes, and then I'll let you go. But I want to start with this. Before we take any kind of dive into the Eagles-Patriots game, and there's a lot of interesting angles in that game, I wanted to start, though, with this before we get to a break, which is I'm a believer in the Super Bowl hangover, and the statistics back me up that only 3 teams in NFL history have gotten back to a Super Bowl after losing the previous year. Do you see any chance of a Super Bowl hangover in Philadelphia?
You know, hangover is a tough word. You don't see that with this team because they have veteran leadership. They have the best CEO on and off the field, I think, in the NFL, in Jalen Hurts, because he is the tone setter, without a doubt. People want to say Howie Roseman builds the roster, Nick Sirianni's the head coach, or they've got bright new defensive and offensive coordinators. This team belongs to Jalen Hurts.
Right.
And the Eagles put the dollar signs on the paper to prove that it is his football team. And the way the team conducts its business comes from Jalen Hurts. So I am not going to use the word hangover. I'm just going to say it is an extremely difficult challenge. So you've got 18 straight quarterbacks who have lost their Super Bowl debut, never get back to the Super Bowl, Pat.
How about that?
If there's anybody who can do it, though, I think it's Jalen Hurts. All you got to do is look at all the video of the way he attacks the weight room. Look at all of the practices and the way that he conducts himself on and off the field and what he says.
Yeah.
If there's anybody that can do it, it is him. So Nick Sirianni has studied this with his analytics department headed by Julian Lurie, Jeffrey Lurie's son, and they've come up with 2 very specific, one obvious, one not so obvious reasons that teams drop off after the so-called hangover. What are they? One is injuries, Pat.
Right.
You just mentioned it. And now it's tougher than it's ever been. 17-game season. To keep everybody healthy for a 17-game season is hard.
Near impossible.
Near impossible. And it's no coincidence that last year we had 68 quarterbacks start a game, Pat. Most in NFL history. It's not a coincidence. It's due directly to 17-game schedule.
Right.
And the second thing they came up with in their analytics department is a drop-off in offensive production. And I want to get into that with you after we come back from the break, because I think it's important that we give it a lot of breathing space and discuss exactly what that means and what they've done this spring and summer to attack that.
All right, we'll get into that. I want to talk to Sal about the Patriots' new running back tandem and also the effect, if any, on the return of Tom Brady to the Patriots sideline, if only for one afternoon.
See what I got here, Pat? I got my
media guy.
No, Pat. This is the NFL Media Black Book for the 2023 season. You go to page 153 to come up with the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to tell you how they go 9-0 before the bye.
All right, great. We look forward to that. Stay with us here on This Week in Pro Football. We'll be right back with the great Sal Paolantonio. All right, welcome back. This week of Pro Football, Pat Callahan here with my longtime and learned colleague, Sal Paolantonio, senior correspondent from ESPN, now a game analyst on ESPN Radio. Sal, it's great to have you back here. And you certainly said something intriguing before that break, which was 9-0. Before we get to what I want to posit to you about Jalen Hurts, tell me how you see that possibly evolving in the Eagles' first half of the season.
Well, I look at this schedule, and I agree with you, Pat. At New England, I like the Eagles to win the game in a close game. It'll be tough. Matthew Judon is no joke.
Right.
That defense gets after the quarterback. Now, Jalen Hurts averaged about exactly 7 design runs per game last season. That's the most of any quarterback in the National Football League. I think in this game, they will have more design runs, and they'll run right at Matthew Judon to try to mitigate his ability to get after Jalen Hurts in the pocket. I think they win the game 24-20. There's no way Minnesota's coming in here on Thursday Night Football. I realize it's a short turnaround for Philadelphia, but the Eagles win that game. Tampa Bay, I was down there in the summer. I saw that team. They're very uncertain on the offensive side of the football. They have a very good head coach who knows how to coach defense.
Right.
But, Jalen Hurts remembers losing that game.
That playoff game.
To Tom Brady in the wild card. He wants to go down there and redeem himself a little bit. Then they beat the Washington Commanders. And I'm sorry, Pat, I don't see much from the LA Rams. I know it's your team.
That's a win.
I don't
That's
see
a win
much.
for the Eagles.
Yeah. I just think the Eagles will be able to get after Aaron Rodgers when they play in New York. The pass rush of the Eagles is just so far superior to the Jets' offensive line. Same thing that goes with Miami. Vic Fangio and that defense, I don't know. I just don't know, Pat. I've never seen anything of a playoff-level defense out of Vic Fangio. I mean, if people talk about him being a great defensive coordinator, I don't get it. I think they sweep Washington. The game to watch, Jalen versus Dak on November 5th in South Philadelphia. Now, that's the game to watch. And so that'll be a tough matchup. But, hey, we in Philly, we're not picking Dallas. We're just not.
Not only that, Sal, like I said in my open, is that I think this is a make or break year for those two guys, for Mike McCarthy and for Dak Prescott. I think the Dak Prescott Kool-Aid pitcher is now empty. I think now he either has to show it and show he's going to stop turning the ball over, or the Cowboys are going to have to think about what they're going to do with the coach and quarterback position, because they're not going to be able to topple Philadelphia.
Yeah, well, Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott have never faced one another. One of the others has been injured. So it'll be a get your popcorn ready football game, and it'll be really highly rated. I think the Dak Prescott situation is this. He hasn't had that signature postseason moment yet. So there'll always be question marks about him until he gets to the postseason. And I think the Cowboys will get to the postseason as a wild card. And he delivers without turning the football over. The number one indicator of wins and losses in the NFL is quarterback turnovers from the quarterback position. The top 6 quarterbacks turnovers did not make the playoffs last year, and the Cowboys were number 7 on that list. They made it only because they had so many takeaways on defense, led the league. So they got to have that signature moment from Dak Prescott in the postseason.
Right. Now, let's circle back here to number 1 in Philadelphia. Sal, you had mentioned the Eagles might have some design runs at Matthew Judon. I posit to you, though, that the Eagles need, as you said, you stressed it, they have to stay as healthy as they can to avoid that kind of Super Bowl blip. And he's got to stay healthy. Do you see the Eagles using Hurts running the ball less than they did in 2022?
I think that they will try for sure. So the notes that I sent you this morning.
I saw that. That's really what I'm referring to.
I'm not out of school here. I'm not talking out of school. It was Nick Sirianni who said in one of his first press conferences this summer, the 2 things the analytics department came up with on why you can't get back to the Super Bowl, the so-called hangover, is injuries and drop-off in offensive production. So they have been aggressive, very aggressive in the passing game this summer. They certainly are looking for better decision-making and better accuracy from Jalen Hurts. I don't see how in the world it can get better than it was last year.
Right.
You study Jalen Hurts. To me, he was really ridiculously good in both of those categories.
He really was.
And he protected the football other than that one strip sack in the Super Bowl. And I'm not blaming him for that loss that was in the first half.
Right.
He went into the halftime with a double-digit lead. He earned it, and the defense didn't hold up their end of the bargain in the second half. So Jalen Hurts played at an MVP level in the Super Bowl. Right. Nevertheless, so how do you get more points, and why would you want more points? Well, two reasons. Number one, you want to make sure that Jalen Hurts doesn't put himself in harm's way. And two, you have a lot of new parts on defense it's going to take time for that to gel. I think the weakest link on the team right now, or let me say this, Pat, not weakest link, unproven link, is Sean Desai, the defensive coordinator, talking to Nakobe Dean, who's going to have that green dot on the back of his helmet, calling the defense for the first time in his short NFL career. Second year, didn't really get on the field last year. Right. That's the number one thing I will be focused on. Are they good in command and control? Good in communication? Are they good in alignment and assignment football? If you're in New England, I don't care if it's Tom Brady playing quarterback or,
Mac Jones. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Mac Jones or Alex Smith. It doesn't matter who it is. You got to play alignment and assignment football because Belichick is going to make you constantly think and adjust. And that is the number one issue that going into this game that I see is the unproven area for this football team.
All right. I mentioned Sal, talking with the great Sal Paolantonio here. Sal, presented by the good folks at First Bank. Sal, I mentioned Mac Jones. I wanted to talk to him, you specifically about him because 18th in passing yards last year, 18th in completion percentage, 23rd in touchdown passes. It's hard to be scared by Mac Jones. He seems to be the quintessential game manager. I don't think they're strong at wide receiver. So then it comes down to the Patriots running backs. How concerned are the Eagles about? Now, Ramondre Stevenson is a good running back. Good, solid.
Oh, yeah. Had over 1,000 yards last year.
Yes. And I think there's some gas probably in the Zeke Elliott tank. How concerned are the Eagles about shutting down that Patriot running?
Well, if you want to beat the Eagles in this game, you're running Ramondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott in the A-gaps all afternoon long. It's supposed to be raining in Foxborough in the afternoon. You just run them, and run them. 1-2 punch, thunder and lightning. That's what you do. That's the way you keep Jalen Hurts off the field and the offense off the field. You play ball control. You do exactly what Belichick did to the Buffalo Bills in that Super Bowl in Tampa. You keep the other offense off the field, and you run. You run the ball. And they are very capable. I mean, their offensive line is a work in progress. But the Eagles' defensive tackle situation, Fletcher Cox is older. Hargrave's in San Francisco. Jordan Davis couldn't get on the field during the Super Bowl. Had an ankle injury that made him less than productive that you want out of a first-round pick, and Jalen Carter. I mean, you got to test Jalen Carter right away. You can't let him fire off the ball and go and jump the gaps at Mac Jones. That's a losing formula. Losing.
Right. Sal, it's going to be funny. You pointed out to me, Tim McManus, our colleague at ESPN, wrote a very thoughtful piece on Jalen Carter and how he came to be a Philadelphia Eagle. They talk about him. He's got all the talent in the world. They talk about him almost in Aaron Donald type tones, and I don't expect that week one, but it will be curious to see how his season evolves in that interior Eagle line.
Great piece by Tim McManus on ESPN.com. If you haven't read it, go on ESPN.com on the Eagles page and scroll down to it. Timmy Mack always delivers the goods, no question about it. But, is there a more hyped defensive rookie this summer than Jalen Carter, Pat?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think
No.
the whole story was interesting. And
So
and
he's got, I think, you say he doesn't have to deliver week one. Oh, Pat. Oh, yes, he does, Pat.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll certainly look at that. I think that and that running attack, as you mentioned, I think the Patriots try and run the ball at least 30 times. And
Oh, yeah.
because I don't think Mac Jones can beat the Eagles, but we'll see. It'd be very interesting to see how that game evolves.
I got to win. I got the Eagles winning 24-20, Pat.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid number. I think it's a pretty solid number. But now there's two other games, Sal, I want to get your attention on before I let you go, so you can sip that hot tea and get yourself ready. And that is first off, the two NFC teams playing Sunday night. Cowboys at the Giants.
I got the Giants winning that game, Pat.
Do you really? Now, that's
I do. Listen, the Giants
dominated that series.
Well, I know, but the Giants did not win a game in their division last year.
Yeah.
Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
New look Daniel Jones. This is a game that they can and should win. I think it is. I really do.
And you know what, Sal? There's no such thing as a must game in week one, but I think the onus is on the Giants in this game. If they want to be taken seriously, I think they've got to win this game.
Absolutely. And wouldn't that be something if the Dallas Cowboys go 0-2 for New York week 1 and 2, and Aaron Rodgers goes down there.
Yeah. And speaking of that, Monday night.
I don't know what the parlay there is on that game, but that would be just for entertainment purposes only.
The mothership Monday night, Sal, has Bills-Jets, which all of a sudden is very much a marquee game and a good get for ESPN there. Aaron Rodgers' debut in New York. A lot of confidence coming from that Jets camp, Jet Life Stadium and the like.
Jet Life Stadium. I like it. I like it.
That's a formidable, at least, Sal, regular season team coming in to see them week 1. You think the Jets could pull off a win here?
Well, Rodgers is 14-0 on Monday Night Football in his last 14 games. So
how about that?
There'll be a lot of emotion in the stadium, the 9/11 tributes. I'll be there covering that game as well, going from Foxborough to MetLife. So I'm anxious to see the two offensive tackles for the Jets, who have not really done much the entire offseason, Dwayne Brown and Mekhi Becton.
Right.
So to me, that's the team right there. Their defense is going to be top 3 in points allowed. No question about it.
Yep.
I want to see how they mitigate the pass rush on Aaron Rodgers. That's the key for me.
Right.
Pat, listen here. I'm doing Foxborough, Monday Night Football, Get Up Wednesday in New York. Thursday, I'll be Vikings at Eagles. On both ends, I'll be doing the matchup show with Greg Cosell and Darius Butler on ESPN2, debuts Saturday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. We've got a great Eagles piece by Greg Cosell.
All right. Excellent. And, of course, you started off your week on this program. What better way to start off the NFL season, Sal? And it was great talking to you. I appreciate all the information. It was terrific. I look forward to talking to you next week as the Eagles open their home.
And when are we on next week, Pat?
Well, I think it's going to be Tuesday night, Sal. I got to confirm that with you.
All right, that is my one night where I can slide this week in pro football in. So
slide it in.
Serendipitous
for the whole hour.
Serendipitous, Pat. I like it.
Sal, thank you very much. The great Sal Paolantonio joining me here on This Week in Pro Football. Very interesting things that we talked about with that game. He sees a rather, I don't want to say banal Eagle win 24-20, but he sees a relatively close game there. I think Philadelphia might win by more than 4, but I'm pretty confident the Eagles come away 1-0 here. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. When we get back, my colleague Sean Green from Bet SGPN will join us. We will talk about some season-long NFL and Philadelphia Eagle props, and also some interesting bets that Sean is looking at relative to the Philadelphia Eagles. We will do that next here on This Week in Pro Football.